Now that you're ready to dissect the mink, you will pick which side you'd like to start with. I like starting with the lateral view of the mink. You have diagrams in your handouts that you have prepared, but you also have this document right here that is available at every lab station. I've colored them in blue. It has the lateral view on one side and the anterior view on the other, and it's just a piece of paper, so as you touch it with your gloves and it gets full of kind of the solution on the mink, you can just toss it when you're done. I've made lots of copies, and Miss Byrne can make more if you need them. I also have some plastic racks with a clothespin that you can pin this to so that you can keep it upright in front of you, kind of in this manner as you're working, and that way you don't have to touch it as much. If you start with one view, say this view, you can have that one up and available as you're working and just refer to it when necessary. So I have that available to me, and I can look at it as I do my dissecting. Now, the dissection process is really not a lot of dissecting. It is simply separating the muscles so that you can see their individualized nature. And so I may use my scalpel from time to time, but typically I don't need it very often. So these are the two tools that I will probably use most. And typically I can dissect with just these tools for the most part. So as I start with my lateral view and I look at my picture, maybe I would like to start with these back muscles. I would like to see this latissimus dorsi, equivalent of that on a human, and the external oblique. The equivalent is the external abdominal oblique on a human. So I'm looking for those muscles. Pay attention to the way the fibers run, because that helps you identify them. So these fibers run towards the shoulder. So this is that specific muscle. This is the latissimus dorsi. We can see that line ends right here, and I can't see these fibers very well, but if I clear off some of this outer fascia, I bet that we can see that those fibers run in the same direction as the external abdominal oblique. So I find kind of a line where the two muscles separate, and then I use my probe to kind of clean the tissue in between. This is basically how you dissect muscles. Having done this, I can typically see a better differentiation between the latissimus dorsi and the external abdominal oblique. Looking at something more specific, such as the muscles in this lower arm, this can be very challenging. So in looking at those, you can see that in this image, we can't see any of those muscles. But if I take the time, and this does take time, to put the probe underneath the fascia, and I can see my probe through the fascia right here, then I can tear that fascia away, and if I do that in multiple locations, making sure I'm only through the fascia, and peel this tissue back, I suddenly get the delineation of numerous muscles. Like here's one. I can see the line in between the muscles, and I can place my probe there. And once the probe is there, peel again just the fascia, that thin layer off, and I can start to see the muscles. This is basically what you're doing for your specimen. Now, once I've divided them out, I want to make sure I have them all. So I would count from this end to that end how many I see, and make sure I have that many lined up. And once I have them all lined up, I know I have as many muscles here as I do in the photograph, then I can pin them and take a photo. Now, some of the muscles are easier to identify than others, and oftentimes because of their shape. So for example, there's a muscle back here that kind of wraps around right here, and that's this, the palmaris longus. So from this side to that side, I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 muscles. So if I start to count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I need 2 more. I have to find out where they are. And so I just keep separating until I find them. There's another small one right there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, Still need one more. And one of these is a really tiny muscle right here called the supinator. So that's the one I'm missing. It's gonna be way down in here, between the two. And there it is, it's right in here. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there are 2 here, 8, and 9. So then I would use my pins. I would place those pins in those muscles. I may use flags, I may use just the plain pins sometimes. It's easier to tell where they're at, especially when they're really close together. Then I would take my photograph and I would put it in my lab report.